When you talk about Nicky Barnes, Frank Matthews, and Frank Lucas, behind every big name is a man that's even bigger that hides out in the shadows. While you think all the important men are sitting at ringside at the big fights, there's people in those executive rooms that the cameras never catch. So you think Don King's a big shot? To who? To us? It's the guys that make Al Heyman look small. After the event, they always walk out a little richer because they have a hand in everything, from the performers to the sponsors. Now, that's the important man behind the scenes. Frank Moten, the Black Godfather. Being from Georgia, we've talked about this before, how most of the big names that were something in New York came from the South. Well, growing in the game, he never forgot what an old-timer once told him, and that was head low, pockets full. He got his hands on some startup money and opened up a numbers house. He began a loan shark, and once his bankroll got large enough, he began opening up numerous number houses. He began to find himself at the right places at the right time, meeting some strong figures in the underworld. A couple of men approached him to put some money up to purchase some pure dope at a great price that was unbeatable. The smartest thing he began to do is to go state to state to hang out, rubbing shoulders with the right people. He was already a policy racketeer and loan shark, but when he started messing with that H, that caddy money became Rolls Royce money. He was getting rid of that stuff super fast. He formed major ties with the Genovese family, which they did business moving it out of storefronts. It was going good, but blacks were tired of getting hit over the head, copping from the Italians. I mean, the amount they was paying for that stuff was cutting into the profits like crazy. So it was time to form a legendary play and get it overseas. That really changed the game. Blacks began becoming their own bosses and had the best stuff on the streets. Before you know it, he became the chairman of the Council of 12, which consisted of the most important black dealers, not just in New York, but all over the country. People think Frank Matthews was the man that got players from Detroit, North Carolina, Ohio, and other areas together to form the council. But nah, Matthews was just the front man. Moten was the man behind the curtains. And those curtains was Maybach curtains. It's like, nah, they probably didn't even have Maybachs back then, but Moten was the type of person, if he didn't know you, he wasn't gonna sit with you because he didn't have to. All the big time hustlers didn't even see him. All the big meetings, he wouldn't even show up because he had guys represent him. So during any business disputes or anything that was brought up in the meetings, he would have the final say-so. He controlled the prices and the flow of all the product, as well as knowing how much each hustler was pulling in each state. Not only did he become the biggest distributor, getting them in bulks, but he still had his loan striking operation, not only dealing with street hustlers, but legit businessmen like boxing promoters, restaurant owners, CEOs, boxers, basketball players. Everyone around him made money. He was printing it. While all this is going on, he's still big in numbers. Not just in New York, he got it cracking in other states. He had a handful of nightclubs in Harlem, properties all over Harlem and the Bronx, properties and businesses in other states. Setting his legal operations aside, he's still making tens of millions of dollars in legit money. As you see in this pic, he's with Floyd Patterson and Wilt Chamberlain. The electrician will be in his house for work and will stumble across famous entertainers sitting in his living room. He was the money man, and he made things happen for a lot of big names. Many big names borrowed money from him. He used to gift his friends and business partners expensive watches, minks, cars. October 26, 1970 was Muhammad Ali's return fight against Jerry Quarry. It was a big event, and it was the only state Ali could fight in during the time. It was an Ali fight after party in Atlanta where all the high rollers were attending. The chairman called a meeting knowing all the major players would be attending. Around this time, guys thought they was big shots, so they had their men representing them. Frank Matthews' top guys were at the meeting and attended the after party. It was like the Appalachian meeting for blacks. It was a legendary score taking place. You had Big Willie stripped down, giving it all up. Thousands of dollars, jewelry, mink coats were taken. It was very humiliating because you had some serious gangsters in the building. You even had some lawyers, doctors, entertainers in the building. That's the only reason why police reports were even filed. But it was only 7 reports because the gangsters couldn't go to law enforcement. But Moten wanted to find out who was responsible ASAP. You're talking about gangsters from New York, Chicago, Detroit, all over. It wasn't about the money, it was the embarrassment. One of Moten's early promises to the men that if they joined his network, that they wouldn't be with at all. He promised the men he would replace everything that was taken. But again, it wasn't about the money. They were the laughing stock of the underworld. Imagine having to go back to your city after what's taking place. Moten called several meetings, and of course, he hosts all of them. See, when Moten showed his face, it was about some money or it was very important. He interrogated Gordon Chicken Man Williams, which was the host of the after party. Moten demanded the names or he was just going to start people, which he did. Several bodies fell behind the incident. See, Moten was a very serious guy. He was quiet, but he was very dangerous. And a lot of dudes really didn't understand that because he wasn't seen. He was at parties and all types of big executive meetings, sitting in the background with his legs crossed, and you wouldn't even know who he was unless you really knew. Guys fell that had nothing to do with it, but he had to send a message. Behind the robbery was a guy named Richard Willer, but he eventually disappeared. Now, after that incident, it was hard for things to get back to normal. There was a lot of egos that was bruised, and a lot of people didn't understand that robbery is really a part of the game, but you had some people that's lucky to not get robbed, but it's just a part of the game, but you know how egos get. Things were already hot with just too many people flaunting and taking pictures at these big events. Now, those bodies just made things worse. Moten was on top of the world with the best lawyers you could find, and I'm talking about thousands of dollars a day attorneys. They lawyers had lawyers. On April 5th, 1976, an indictment was filed in the Southern District of New York. It charged 33 individuals in 40 counts with various violations of federal narcotic laws. During his arrest, he was very cool. Police said he was very gentle. He kept a smile on his face and remained calm. He would be pulled from his jail cell several times by law enforcement to see if he would like to cooperate, but he would respectfully decline and ask politely if he could be escorted back to his cell. January of 1977, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for being the head of a coke and heroin interstate distribution organization. December 23rd, 1984, at the age of 63, he would pass away. While a lot of people will state that they never heard of him, the question I'll throw back at them is, isn't that a good thing? His run was almost 30 years, strictly just playing the background, following those 4 words: head low, pockets full. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate y'all time. Let's get these likes up, get involved in the comments, turn the notifications on if you're new, subscribe to the channel, check out the playlist, check out my last 3 videos if you didn't. Y'all have a safe weekend. Don't forget, head low, pockets full. I'm out.